My name is Alex Thompson, and I'm 38 years old. I grew up in Seattle, Washington, right in the heart of tech country. My dad, Michael, was a network engineer. My mom, Karen, was a librarian. We lived in a modest house in the suburbs, and there were always computers around. I was 16 when I wrote my first line of code. It was summer break. I was bored. My dad had left an old laptop in the garage, said I could mess with it if I wanted. So I did. I started with simple things. Basic HTML, then CSS, then JavaScript. I was hooked immediately. There was something magical about typing words on a screen and watching them create something functional, something real. My dad noticed. "You're picking this up fast," he said one evening, watching me debug a script. "It's like solving puzzles," I told him. "I like puzzles," he smiled. "Then you should learn about networks. Security. That's where the real puzzles are." He showed me the basics. How networks communicate, how data moves, how systems can be vulnerable. I spent the rest of that summer learning everything I could. Forums, YouTube tutorials, online courses. By the time school started, I knew more than my computer science teacher. Senior year, I took things further. I asked my high school principal if I could test the school's website for vulnerabilities, just to learn, just to help. She was skeptical but agreed. "Nothing destructive," she warned. I found 3 security holes. Nothing major, but enough that someone could have accessed student records. I documented everything, showed them how to fix it. The principal thanked me. The IT department was impressed, and I realized this is what I want to do. Find the holes before the bad guys do. I applied to colleges, got into a good computer science program with a scholarship. My parents were proud, but college was slow. The professors taught theory. I wanted practice. I wanted to break things and put them back together. So I found my real education online. Hacker forums, bug bounty programs, competitions called Capture the Flag where you solve security challenges. I stayed up until 3 a.m. most nights, learning from people around the world who actually did this work. By the time I graduated at 22, I had 15 certifications. Certified ethical hacker, offensive security certified professional, every major security credential I could earn. My resume looked impressive, but I had one problem: no official work experience, just certifications and personal projects. I thought that would be enough. I was wrong. I applied to 50 cybersecurity jobs in 6 months, 50 rejections. No professional experience. Overqualified for entry level. Not the right fit. Some companies didn't even respond. I was 23, living with my parents, working at a help desk job that paid barely enough to cover student loans. I was resetting passwords and explaining to people how to restart their computers. It was mind-numbing, but I didn't give up. At night, I did freelance work, bug bounties mostly. Companies that pay hackers to find vulnerabilities in their systems. Legally, ethically, I was good at it. Really good. I found bugs in major websites, banking apps, healthcare systems. Got paid a few $100s here, a few thousand there, but it wasn't sustainable. No benefits, no stability, no career path. I kept applying to jobs. Kept getting rejected. Years passed. I was 28 years old, still stuck. I had moved out of my parents' house into a tiny studio apartment. I was still working IT support during the day, hunting bugs at night. Then I saw it. The job posting that could change everything. SecureNet Solutions, a major cybersecurity firm. They were hiring penetration testers, people who break into systems, legally, to find weaknesses. It was perfect. I applied immediately. 2 weeks later, I got a call. An interview I prepared for days, reviewed every concept, practiced every scenario. This was my chance. The interview was downtown, in a sleek office building with glass walls and modern furniture. First round went well. I met with junior engineers. They asked technical questions. I answered all of them. They seemed impressed. "You clearly know your stuff," one of them said. "We'll pass you on to the team lead." Second round, Derek Mitchell. I knew the name. Derek Mitchell was an industry veteran, 20 years in cybersecurity. He spoke at conferences. He had published papers. Working under him would be an incredible opportunity. I walked into his office. He was in his mid-40s, salt and pepper hair, expensive watch. He barely looked up from his computer when I entered. "Alex Thompson?" he asked, still typing. "Yes. Thank you for meeting with me." He finally looked at my resume, scanned it quickly. Impressive certifications. All theory, though, I assume. Actually, I have extensive practical experience. Bug bounty programs, CTF competitions, freelance security audits. He waved his hand dismissively. Freelance, right. He leaned back in his chair. Look, Alex, I'm going to be direct with you. This job requires a very specific mindset. I understand. Creative problem solving, thinking like an attacker. More than that, he interrupted. It requires chaos, the ability to see patterns others miss, to think outside rules, to break systems. That's exactly what I do in Women Don't Have the Hacker Mindset. I stopped mid-sentence. Excuse me? I've been in this industry 20 years. I've seen it over and over. Women are great at detail work. Documentation, compliance, following processes. But offensive security? You need to think like a criminal. That requires a certain brain wiring. I felt my face get hot. With all due respect, it's not personal, he said, standing up. It's just how the brain works. Men are evolutionarily wired for risk, for hunting, for chaos. Women are wired for caretaking, for structure, for following rules. It's biology. I have certifications, experience. I found critical vulnerabilities in theory, he cut me off. Anyone can study. But do you have the instinct? When you're staring at code, do you see the exploit before it happens? Or do you follow the checklist? I didn't know what to say. Here's my advice, Derek said, his tone almost kind now. Consider compliance, project management. Those are great careers for women in tech. But this, he gestured to his office. You'd never keep up. You'd put our clients at risk. I don't think we'll be in touch. Thanks for coming in. The meeting was over. I walked out in a daze. I made it to my car before I started crying. Not sad crying, angry crying, frustrated crying. 6 years. 6 years of working terrible jobs, studying every night, earning every certification. And I was rejected because of how my brain was supposedly wired. I sat in that parking lot for an hour. Then I drove home. Sat at my computer. Opened a chat with Marcus. Marcus Lee was someone I'd met in online hacker forums. A white hat hacker, one of the good guys. We'd worked together on CTF competitions. He was brilliant and one of the few people who always took me seriously. Just got rejected from SecureNet, I typed. Their loss, Marcus replied immediately. The lead said women don't have the hacker mindset. That I'm too linear, too by the book. There was a long pause. That's Derek Mitchell, isn't it? Marcus finally wrote. Yeah, you know him? He's a dinosaur. Old school sexist. Half the industry thinks he's a joke. Ignore him. But what if he's right? What if I am too by the book? Alex, you found a 0-day vulnerability in a major banking app 3 months ago. Remember? You saw something their entire security team missed. Does that sound by the book to you? He was right. 0-day vulnerabilities are ones nobody knows about. Finding them takes creativity, not just following rules. You don't need his permission, Marcus continued. Prove him wrong your way. I stared at the screen. Then I typed, you're right. I don't need his permission. That night I made a decision. If the industry wouldn't hire me, I'd build my own path. I quit my IT support job. Went full-time freelance. It was terrifying. No steady paycheck. No benefits. Just me, my computer, and my skills. The first 6 months were brutal. I reached out to every startup I could find. Need a security audit? I can do it for a fraction of what big firms charge. Most didn't respond. A few said they'd think about it. None hired me. I survived on bug bounties. I was in the top 10 on the leaderboards now. Companies were paying me thousands of dollars to find their vulnerabilities, but it wasn't consistent. Some months were good. Some months I ate ramen. I kept at it. I started writing blog posts about security, sharing tips on forums, building a reputation as someone who was helpful, professional, and knew what she was talking about. Finally, I got my first real client, Nina Patel, a healthcare startup founder. She needed a security audit before investors would fund her next round. The big firms quoted me $50,000, she told me over video call. I can't afford that. Can you help? I can do it for $15,000, I said. She hesitated. Why so much cheaper? I don't have fancy offices or salespeople. Just me and my expertise. You're paying for the work, not the overhead. She took a chance. Hired me. I spent 2 weeks tearing apart her application, found 23 vulnerabilities. 5 were critical, any one of which could have led to a major data breach. I wrote a detailed report. Not just, here's what's broken, but here's how to fix it. Here's why it matters. Here's how to prevent it in the future. Nina was blown away. This is better than what the big firms gave us last year. You're hired for ongoing work. Ongoing work. Recurring revenue. Finally, stability. Word spread in the startup community. Referrals came in. By the time I was 30, I had 15 clients. Mostly small companies, but steady income. I was making it work. Barely. But I was making it work. At 31, I couldn't keep up anymore. Too many clients. Too much work for one person. I needed help, but I couldn't afford to hire someone with experience. So I looked for someone like me. Someone talented, but overlooked. I found Raj Singh on the same forums where I'd learned. He was 23, brilliant, eager to learn. He'd been applying to jobs for a year with no luck. I reached out. I can't pay much yet, but if you're willing to learn, we'll grow together. When do I start? He replied. He started the next week. 6 months later, I hired a second person, then a third. I registered a company, ShieldTech Security. We rented a tiny office, 4 desks crammed into one room, but it was ours. Our reputation grew. We weren't the cheapest anymore, but we were the most thorough. We found things other firms missed. Our clients never got breached. Then came the big break. A mid-sized tech company called. We had a security breach. Our current firm didn't catch it in time. We need someone better. My team and I dove in, spent a week doing a comprehensive audit, found not just how the breach happened, but a dozen other vulnerabilities that could have been exploited. We presented our findings. The CTO was impressed. This is the kind of thoroughness we need. We want a long-term contract. That contract paid more than all my other clients combined. More companies followed. ShieldTech went from 4 people to 20, from a cramped office to a real workspace. By 32, we were a legitimate firm. I realized we were hitting a ceiling. Startups and mid-sized companies were great, but the real money, the real impact, was in Fortune 500 companies. But big companies don't hire boutique firms. They want established names, firms with decades of history. I had to change our approach. I couldn't compete on legacy, so I competed on expertise. I started speaking at conferences, small ones at first, then bigger ones. I wrote detailed blog posts about emerging threats. I published white papers on new attack vectors. I built a reputation as someone who was ahead of the curve. One day, I discovered a significant vulnerability in a popular piece of enterprise software. Millions of companies used it. I reported it to the vendor, waited for them to patch it, then published my findings. It made news. Major tech outlets covered it. Security researcher Thompson discovers critical flaw. ShieldTech's phone started ringing. Our first Fortune 500 client was a retail giant. They'd had a data breach and were looking for a new security partner. I pitched them personally. You don't need the firm with the fanciest office. You need the firm that finds what others miss. That's us. We won the contract. $2 million a year. After that, more followed. One Fortune 500 client became 5, then 10, then 15. By 35, ShieldTech had 100 employees. We had moved into a proper office downtown. We were protecting some of the biggest companies in the world. And in 5 years of operation, none of our clients had been successfully breached. Not one. We had a perfect record. I was at my desk when my phone buzzed with a news alert. SecureNet Solutions client suffers major data breach. I clicked the article. A major financial technology company. Millions of customer records stolen. Credit card numbers. Social security numbers. Everything. SecureNet had been responsible for their security. They had failed. The article detailed the breach. The hackers had exploited a vulnerability in the company's web application. It was a well-known type of attack. Any competent security team should have caught it. But they hadn't. Within a week, more details emerged. Internal investigations. Finger-pointing. SecureNet's stock price dropped. Clients were leaving. The team led on that account was named in the reports, Derek Mitchell. The same Derek Mitchell who'd told me women don't have the hacker mindset. A month later, news broke that Derek had been fired. SecureNet was downsizing, trying to rebuild trust. Derek was the scapegoat. I saw it on industry news sites. Some people I knew mentioned it. Did you hear about Derek Mitchell? Finally got what was coming to him. I didn't feel joy. I didn't feel vindication. I just felt nothing. Derek Mitchell wasn't relevant to my life anymore. 2 weeks after that, my assistant knocked on my office door. "Alex, you have an email. You might want to see this." I opened it. From Derek Mitchell. Subject: Consulting Opportunity. I stared at the subject line for a moment before opening it. "Alex, I hope this message finds you well. I've been following ShieldTech's impressive growth over the years. Truly remarkable what you've built. I'm currently between opportunities and exploring new ventures. Given my 20 years of experience in the field, I thought there might be a mutually beneficial consulting arrangement we could discuss. I believe my expertise could add significant value to your team. Would you be open to a conversation? Best regards, Derek Mitchell." I read it 3 times. 8 years ago, he'd told me I didn't have the hacker mindset, that I was too by the book, that women couldn't do this work. Now he was asking me for a job. I sat back in my chair and laughed. Not a mean laugh, just the absurdity of it. I started typing a response. My first draft was long, detailed. It listed every success ShieldTech had achieved, every client we'd protected, every vulnerability we'd found, every time I'd proven that linear thinking was actually an asset in security. I deleted it. My second draft was short and professional. Polite decline. Generic reasons about fit and timing. I deleted that too. My third draft was 1 sentence. No. I deleted that as well. Finally, I wrote, "Derek, thank you for reaching out. Unfortunately, we don't have any openings that match your skill set at this time. As you know, team fit is very important to us. I'm sure you understand. Best of luck in your search. Alex, team fit." The same phrase companies had used to reject me for years. I hit send. Marcus saw the email thread later. "That's it? No speech about how wrong he was?" "He already knows," I said. The breach proved it. I don't need to rub it in. But I did do one more thing. I posted on professional networking sites. Reminder: diverse teams catch more vulnerabilities. Groupthink is a security risk. If everyone on your team thinks the same way, you're missing exploits. Linear thinking isn't a flaw. It's a feature. Alex Thompson, CEO, ShieldTech Security. The post went viral. Hundreds of thousands of views. Comments from people sharing their own stories of being underestimated. Derek saw it. I know because someone told me they'd seen him at a conference and he looked miserable. But he never reached out again. A year later, I was invited to speak at Cybersec Summit, the largest cybersecurity conference in the country. 5,000 attendees. Live streamed to 50,000 more. I'd spoken at conferences before, but never as keynote. This was different. The topic I proposed: the myth of the hacker mindset. They accepted immediately. I spent weeks preparing. This wasn't just a technical talk. This was personal. The day came. I stood backstage listening to the introduction. "Please welcome Alex Thompson, CEO of ShieldTech Security, protecting 30 Fortune 500 companies with a perfect security record." I walked on stage. The lights were bright. The audience was huge. I spotted Derek in the 3rd row, unemployed but still networking, still part of the industry. I smiled and began. For decades, cybersecurity has been gatekept by a myth. The myth of the hacker mindset. We're told you need to be chaotic, rule-breaking, think like a criminal, that you need a specific type of brain wiring to succeed in offensive security. I paused, making eye contact across the room. I was told I didn't have this mindset, that I was too linear, too methodical, too by the book, that women's brains aren't wired for this work. Murmurs in the audience. 10 years later, my firm protects 30 Fortune 500 companies. We have a perfect record, 0 breaches, 0. And we didn't achieve that by relying on cowboy hackers who think they're too clever for process. I clicked to the next slide. Statistics showing breach causes. The biggest security breaches don't happen because teams aren't creative enough. They happen because of arrogance. Because someone thought they were so smart, they didn't need systematic testing. They skipped the boring, linear, by-the-book checks. Another slide. A redacted case study. Everyone in the room knew it was the SecureNet breach. This breach? Completely preventable. A basic vulnerability that any structured testing process would have caught. But the team was too busy being creative. I looked directly at Derek. He was staring at his phone. So, let me be clear. There is no hacker mindset. There's competence. There's rigor. There's systematic thinking. And there's diversity of thought. The best security teams have people who think differently. Linear thinkers catch what creative thinkers miss. Methodical people find the boring vulnerabilities that flashy hackers overlook. And creative people see the unexpected exploits. Gatekeeping our industry with myths about brain wiring? That's not security. That's insecurity. And it's costing companies billions in preventable breaches. I paused one more time. So to anyone who's been told they don't have the right mindset, they're wrong. Your way of thinking is exactly what this industry needs. Don't try to fit their mold. Build your own. Because the future of cybersecurity isn't about thinking like a hacker. It's about thinking like everyone hackers attack. And that means all of us. The audience erupted. Standing ovation. It lasted 3 minutes. Derek left before the Q&A session. I never saw him at a conference again. At 38, ShieldTech has 200 employees. 30 Fortune 500 clients. 50 million in annual revenue. But those numbers aren't what I'm most proud of. What I'm proud of is the ShieldTech Fellowship Program. 100 internship spots each year. 60% reserved for women and people from underrepresented groups in tech. We pay them. We train them. We hire them. Because I remember what it's like to be talented but overlooked. To have the skills but not the opportunity. Last week, a young woman sent me a message through our website. I'm studying cybersecurity. My professors keep telling me women aren't cut out for offensive security. That we're too risk-averse. How did you handle being told that? I wrote back, they're wrong. And you'll prove it. Not by arguing with them. By being so good they can't ignore you. Get your certifications. Do bug bounties. Build your portfolio. And when they tell you no, build your own path. You don't need their permission to be excellent. She replied, thank you. That's what I needed to hear. Maybe I'll work for ShieldTech someday. Maybe you will, I wrote back. Or maybe you'll start your own firm and be my competition. Either way, the industry will be better for it. That night, I was cleaning out old files and found something I hadn't seen in years. My rejection email from SecureNet Solutions attached to it was an internal note someone had accidentally left in the reply. Probably Derek's assessment. Candidate lacks hacker instinct. Too risk-averse. Too process-oriented. Not recommended. I stared at it for a moment. Then I deleted it. It doesn't matter anymore. That assessment was wrong. Provably, measurably wrong. I built a company that does what he said I couldn't do. I protect clients he couldn't protect. I have a perfect record while his ended in a breach that cost his career. I didn't need to prove him wrong. The results proved it. I'm 38 years old. ShieldTech is planning to expand to 500 employees by the time I'm 40. We're opening international offices. We're developing new security tools. We're training the next generation. Derek Mitchell. I never heard from him again. Someone told me he left the industry entirely. I don't know where he is. I don't care. His opinion doesn't matter. It never did. What matters is this. Every day, companies around the world trust us to keep them safe. And every day we do, because we're thorough, systematic. Yes, even linear, and we're unhackable. Last week, a young analyst asked me during a team meeting, "What's the secret to staying ahead of hackers?" I smiled. There's no secret. You think like them, but you also think like everyone they attack. You need chaos and order, creativity and process. You need different minds approaching the same problem. That's why diversity isn't just good ethics. It's good security. The more perspectives you have, the fewer blind spots you have. And blind spots are where breaches happen. The analyst nodded, taking notes. I looked around the room. My team. Different backgrounds. Different ways of thinking. Different strengths. This is what Derek couldn't see. This is what he called a weakness. This is what makes us strong. I didn't need a hacker mindset. I needed my own mindset, and an industry that would let me use it. I built that opportunity for myself, and now I'm building it for others. Because the best revenge isn't proving someone wrong. It's making them irrelevant. And Derek Mitchell? He's been irrelevant for years. I'm unhackable. We're unhackable. And we always will be.